Hello, welcome. Thank you guys so much for being here today. Hopefully, you guys can hear me okay and see me okay. You can let me know in the chat if everything is okay because half of my screen is not showing right now. And yeah, really excited to be here and looking for all of my windows right now. Fantastic. Here we are. Okay, wonderful. Thanks for being here. Thank you. Thank you. Really excited. Oh, Robin is on her uh, lunch break, I think, and Bridget's here. Wonderful. And Vicky's in the room. Wonderful. Thank you guys so much for being here on the chat, on the stream today. I'm really excited to be here today. This is our live stream that we do for Taking Back Friday. It happens once a month, the second Friday of every month here on YouTube for Sweet Georgia. I am Felicia from SweetGeorgia Yarns and also the School of SweetGeorgia. And so we spend this time sort of catching up about all of the things that have been going on in and around SweetGeorgia, behind the scenes, and all these kinds of things. And I guess I have lots and lots of things to share with you guys today. There's lots of things on my desk. There's lots of upcoming events that are coming, upcoming make-alongs that we want to talk about. So there's just a lot of things, sort of exciting things happening, and that I want to share with you. But first, the first place that I wanted to start is I'm going to share a little bit about where we were just at last week. And so let me see if I can share my slides. Yay, that's working too. Fantastic. So this, you can see, is not me. This is Teresa and Charlotte, and the three of us went to sort of Chicago. It's Rosemont. Rosemont is not in Chicago. They are close to each other, but it costs like $100 to take an Uber from Rosemont to Chicago. I know that there are less expensive ways to get from Rosemont to Chicago, but we've never done it because it's a lot. So yeah, I'm very excited that we got to go for this show at H&H H&H near Chicago, and glad that Charlotte could join us this time. So Teresa and I have gone a couple of times in a row now, and Charlotte actually hasn't been to one of these shows in about 8 years. I think that that's the last time we were saying. And so it was really exciting to be able to go together, to set up the booth together. There was a lot of running around because I was attempting to take multiple streams of classes while I was also there with, helping to set up the booth. But mostly Teresa and Charlotte set up the booth because I was running around like a lot. And then also, to be there to meet shop owners that we've worked with in the past and meet vendors and meet other suppliers. It's always so great to go to this event because you see real people in real life and you get to have real conversations. So all of that is great. I have a quick smattering of snapshots that I took. And there's like no way to sort of cover all of the things that we went and we did, but I tried to attend as many sort of panel discussions as I could. So this one up here, this is a panel discussion that was led by Zonti Howe, and you can see Not Bad Brit is there, Detroit Knots is there, Natalie from Detroit Knots is there, Tamara Kelly from Moogly was there, and two sewing and quilting sort of groups were there as well. And so they were talking a lot about membership, talking about private communities, talking about hosting communities and things like that. And so I attended that one. I also attended a couple of other sort of sessions on craft trends, like Trisha Malcolm, who used to be the editor of Vogue Knitting magazine. She led a couple of sessions, and one of them was about the future of patterns. What is going to happen to patterns in the future and the delivery of knitting patterns or crochet patterns or all these kinds of patterns? And then also, what are the future craft trends? What are the colors that are popular for this year, next year, and beyond? So there's a lot of like really interesting conversations around that. And then I also had the chance to lead a panel discussion, and this one was with Anne Marrow from Long Thread Media. This is Heather Liu from Closet Core Patterns and Closet Core Crew, and also Jenny Drew from So Confident, who came all the way from Scotland to attend this show. And so the four of us were on stage talking about memberships and growing memberships and sort of bringing together groups of people with shared passions and experiences. So both Heather and Jenny are in the sewing space. They sew garments. And then obviously you hopefully all know Anne Marrow is in the space of fiber arts. So everything from knitting and spinning and weaving. They do Handwoven magazine, spin off. They do farm to fiber knits as well. So that was a really, really great conversation as well with them. And then we had attended the fashion show, which was really, really fun. We haven't participated in the fashion show for a number of years, but this year it was actually, yeah, we decided to pop in and we added two garments. One of them you can see here is the Falling Leaves sweater that Andrea Rangel designed for the School of SweetGeorgia for the course that we taught. And there's a couple of other really, really interesting pieces for sure. But one of the pieces that got the most sort of interest was this one. It's a ball gown that was sewn from t-shirts, band t-shirts. So all the band t-shirts that you collect over the years, and then you don't really know what to do with them. And then they were chopped up and sewn back together into this patchwork ball gown sort of outfit. So it's really interesting because you could see from the fashion show that they were, like about half of the garments were garments that people thought, oh, you could definitely make these projects. This is project inspiration for you to actually make these pieces. And then there was like a whole other side of things that was like garments that were just fantasy. They were just pure fantasy, like just very aspirational kind of ideas. So all of that was really, really interesting as well. And then there are many new products coming out, but we can't share them with you yet. I did talk to Ashford, I talked to Louette, we talked to Shaq. There was like a whole bunch of new products coming out, but I can't say anything about any of them yet. But there is one here that is really very interesting, and it's called the Boom Loom. And it looks like a frame loom with a rigid heddle sort of device, but rather than just creating two shafts like a rigid heddle would, this one has one of these shaft devices that produces multiple shafts. So it's almost like having a multi-shaft loom, like up to a 4-shaft loom, but with a very, very simple frame loom setup, and then this little like a heddle device that twists and turns. So it's very similar to the Fisher-Price loom that I had when I was a kid, but my loom only does 2 shafts. This one on the picture here does 4 shafts. So that was very, very interesting to see that come out. Hopefully that will get lots of traction and then maybe, help a lot of people get started with the idea of multi-shaft weaving. And then we went out to Chaogu. Chaogu is 20 years this year, same as us. We started at the same time. We attended our very first trade show at TNNA at the same time. We went to Cologne and saw each other there. It was fantastic to see them sort of grow and everything and all of the things that they are bringing out. And so this is one of the newest things that they are bringing out. It's called quads, and they're basically square needles. And so I've tried square needles before. I've tried square needles in a number of different kinds of materials. These ones happen to be stainless steel. So they are very, very nice. And hopefully they'll be ready like in a couple of months. They're still waiting for that to all come out. Yes, Savage Walks is asking, have you had a chance to try out the new Louette Harmony Table Loom? Yes, we saw the Harmony Table Loom. It's lovely. It comes in colors and it does have a sliding beater. It looks great. It looks very, very functional. The shaft switching, the toggles are a little bit more narrow. Everything's very more compact. It has very like Louette aesthetic. Everything, it just fits in with everything that they're doing. And when I talked to David Louette, he was saying that the Harmony is meant to sort of fit in the space between sort of the Jane looms and the Erica looms. So that's kind of where it's fitting. Yes, and like they have on the David too, the sliding beater. So it's a beater that it doesn't like rock back and forth. So there's no angle to the beat. It's always going to be perpendicular to sort of your fell line. And so it slides back and forth on rails. And so that's going to be really, really interesting as well. Yeah, I got a chance to also look at a David loom up close. They are so beautiful and so solid. So that was quite lovely as well. And you guys might have heard the news also that that Louette bought Shacked. That was a big piece of news that happened just before we went to the show, and so we had a chance to talk with everybody about that, and yeah, excited for all of these future developments. All of these things are good, they mean good things for the industry. All of this is really, really positive. I think overall, the show was super, super positive. So, yes, I'm sure we'll go again in the future. It was a good show, and it was a good time, and, I really appreciate, Teresa and Charlotte for coming out to actually attend the event, but, I mean, the whole team for setting up all of the samples, preparing all the samples, steaming all of our fabric samples. Like, you can see, all of our fabric samples that we have. There's so many samples that we've basically, had machine knit out of every single colorway that we dye, and then they are all labeled and prepped and then steamed and then packaged and then they're hung up. Yeah, it's a whole thing, but really, really excited to be able to do that and share that with everybody. So that was H&H. Now I have a really big conversation that I want to have today, and I also have, other things to share with you. Like, I'm actually going to show you the sweater that I'm working on right now. But one of the big chunks of this conversation that I want to have with you is about this idea of community. And I think that what I'm like about to embark on is sort of um, one of the most one of the most ambitious projects that we've tried to attempt, I think, over the years. And this has come with a lot of thought and consideration and work behind the scenes, and just it's a very, very ambitious plan. But my very, very ambitious plan is this idea of being able to create a community for a multi-craftual maker that supports sort of your whole journey, your lifelong journey. A lot of this thought was kind of solidified after attending H&H and going to these sort of discussions about, memberships, about communities, and then also about like understanding more of the life of a maker. And so last year we heard similar thoughts, but also this year we heard similar thoughts. There's a very good research sort of study that's done on quilters and how quilters sort of progress through sewing and into quilting. And so I guess there's like a general stat that a quilter will have spent 22 years sewing garments before they actually make their very first quilt. And they may not make their very first like tiny little baby quilt or lap quilt until about the age of 35, 37. And then after that, if they get into it, then they deep dive into quilting, and then quilting becomes like a massive part of their life. But it's not until that time, after having spent all of this other time doing these other things, that then they become a quilter later on. Um, so I found that really, really interesting when I heard it first last year. And I have also been thinking a lot over the years of, like the kids' activities and how they have been for many, many years encouraged to do sort of this idea of multi sport, right? Like you're a young kid and you're just learning and exploring things. So you're going to try a lot of different things before you settle on and specialize in one thing. And the reason why multi sport is really, really important is that it makes sure that the kids don't get injured in any sort of way, that they're learning lots of different skills. I mean, for our kids, we are trying to make sure that they have like one team activity. They're learning team building, they're learning being on a team, how to interact with teammates. And then they also have individual activities where they're learning how to like thrive as an individual. How do you set goals for yourself? How do you sort of compete against yourself? So there's a lot of skills and learning that's involved with being able to do multiple things. And then eventually you get to a point in an age where in order to sort of fulfill the commitment that you need to get better at something, you will have to start to pare down and sort of focus and specialize on certain things. Um, and so I see all of that reflected a lot in what we do with sort of this idea of multi-craftual making, right? Like the journey is very often the gateway is coming in through knitting or coming in through crochet. I make a bunch of things. It's really fun. This is really addictive. And then you might start to figure out, oh, like I'm interested in where yarn comes from. I'm going to learn how to spin. And then I've made so much yarn. What am I going to do with this yarn? I'm going to learn to weave. And because someone who likes yarn and the tactile nature of yarn and making things with yarn is going to be interested in all of these different crafts. And so to be able to support somebody in a community from the point where they become excited about working with yarn to the point where they're wanting to explore different ways of working with yarn to the point where they're developing more mastery and more skills and then almost eventually become sort of specialists in one particular sort of craft or another. Like the more and more I talk to crafters who have done a lot of different fiber arts, they get to the point later on where they're like, there's only so much time. And I've decided that in order to focus on the things that I love the most about the fiber arts, I'm going to give up dyeing, or I'm going to give up fiber prep. I am going to give up maybe washing my own fleece versus other people who are like, that's all I want to do. I just want to wash fleece or I just want to prep fiber. Everybody's finding their own place, but it would be great to be able to support each other and sort of mentor each other through that whole thing without having to like start fresh and then find a new community and then try to make new friends from the start. I think it's come up more and more. I've been reading a lot about how it is more challenging to meet and make friends as an adult because we don't have those opportunities to like meet and greet as much as like say when you're in university or when you're in college or when you're in high school or whatever it is. Like you see everybody every day. It's easy to build community in that way, but it's more difficult when you're an adult and you're just running around doing your own things. So to create space where people can come together, where they have the same passion and excitement and do things together and to be able to support all of that. So this is a very ambitious plan. I know that we have tried for some time to create a lot of community spaces and things like that. We have a community space in the school. We have set up previously on Ravelry, if we've set up previously on Discord, and now we have been working towards trying to build something where we are building something sort of for ourselves, and hopefully building towards the future. I feel like in just the past 2 years, there's been such an explosion of the technology that is available to us now, that it's much easier to build something that we want to use. And so very, very excited about this. So the whole point is that we are going to be launching a new community platform for Sweet Georgia that will hopefully support everybody wherever they're at, in their sort of making journey. Everybody from the very beginning to if you're specializing or whatever, all of that should hopefully be supported by this community. And we are currently looking for people who might be interested in helping us test this and give us some input and some feedback as we are building this. But we are building it actually quite rapidly because we want to be able to use it for many of our upcoming sort of make-alongs that are going to be happening this summer. I mean, the first make-along that we have is basically we're going to be doing Tour de Fleece in July. We're doing a sweater knit-along in August. We do Socktober in October. There's going to be the Winterful Weave-along in November. And so in advance of all of these make-alongs that we want to do, we want to make sure that we have this really super, super positive space for everybody to come to. And so this is where I'm going to encourage anybody who's sort of on the chat, who's interested, who would like to sort of see the inside of what we're trying to create. I encourage you to come to this link. It's bit.ly. Oh, I don't know why it says bit, comma, ly. It's bit.ly/SGY community, and it will take you to a form, and the form basically just asks for your name, your email, what crafts you're interested in, what you would like to see in community, what really bothers you about different communities that you've been a part of. And if you just fill that out, I can reach out to you and invite you into the community so that you can have a look and see and share some thoughts and ideas and all these kinds of things with me. I would love for your input and your help because all of you guys who are here on the chat, who are listening to all of this, you guys are the people who are part of this community. So we are trying to create this space for all of us to actually get together and gather. So I will have much, much more to say about the community in the coming weeks. I literally, I think the team knows this, like, I literally could talk about this for hours because I believe it's so, so important. I believe it's really important to be a part of somewhere where you feel like you belong. I look back at, the clubs that I've been in since high school. I was in a university club that was a dance club, and I spent more hours at the dance club than I did in actual classes for school because I loved it so much, and I felt like I belonged, and these were my people, and it became a huge community, and I loved being a part of that. And I have been part of other clubs and other communities where I feel really out of place and like I don't belong or I haven't felt welcome. And so having all these experiences has been really super, super important. And I want to create a space for Sweet Georgia where everyone in this community feels like they belong, that they're not weird for liking this craft and that craft or whatever, that we are all here because we all like yarn, we all like fiber, we all like color, we all like making things. And yes, very, very excited to hopefully create a space like that for all of us. So, yes, please, please sign up if you are interested. And I'll talk more about these make alongs in a second. But first, let me show you what I have been making. In the meantime, yes, I will show you what I have been making. So, before I went to H&H, I have been working on my sweater. The sweater is the Girdwood sweater. I've been working on this since, since the fall because I told you that I was making all of the yarn. I was dyeing the yarn. No, I didn't dye the yarn. I think Charlotte dyed the yarn. It's the fiber was spun. I had to spin it into a gradient yarn and then ply it and then knit it into the color work. So I'm going to show you where I'm at right now. Ta-da! Okay, so this is the sweater so far. I did make all of the hand spun yarn for the yoke, and then I'm holding it with the BFL and Silk DK yarn that we have, and also holding it with a skein of silk mist. So there's a strand of silk mist running through all of this entire sweater. I'm going to attempt to put it on, okay? We'll see how this works live. Okay. So this sweater uh, has a couple of different neck variations. You could do, I think this is like a short version of the neck. There's also, I think you can like sew it down and make a bit of a collar like that. I might sew mine down. And then you can also make a very super long sort of turtleneck if you want to. But yeah, I think this is okay so far. I am wearing a sweater over a sweater. So if it looks bulky, that's probably why. But yeah, you can see it's working out quite well. And I have just I pulled it off my knitting machine this morning. That's why there's also yellow on here. The yellow is just waste yarn. The yellow will get ripped out later on. But I put it on waste yarn because I ran out of main body color yarn. So I had to come back to the studio to find more yarn for the body. But you can see I have knit the back panel is entirely knit on the machine. I basically took the yoke and I divided it for the sleeves. So the sleeves are currently being held on circular knitting needles just as a temporary holding sort of thing. So one sleeve, the other sleeve, the back has been hung on the machine, and then I sort of whipped out the back, and then I had to work the ribbing. So the ribbing is 2x2 ribbing, and I had to work that manually on that LK150 machine. And I couldn't finish before going to the trip to H&H. And so I left it on hanging on the machine for a week while I was gone. And then I came home and then I finally finished it and then hung the front. But I'm very, very excited about all of this. I'm basically taking these written hand knitting instructions and converting them into machine instructions, and things like casting on under the arm, and then when I pick up all of my sleeve stitches and hang those on the machine, I will just go ahead and pick up those stitches that I cast on the bottom here of the body, and then it will just create this perfectly perfectly smooth join with the shoulder and coming down to the sleeve under the arm. So I'm really, really looking forward to it. I think the finishing will be good. I just have to zip down the body, zip down the two sleeves, picking up the stitches that were underneath the underarms, and then I will sew. I'll just basically have to mattress stitch right under the sleeves and then down the side of each body, and then it will be done. Ta-da! It'll only take a year to make this. Yeah, I love the fade on this. It was, totally worth it to do this whole fade. It was a lot. I was juggling between 2 different, skeins of handspun in order to, like, progress the color exactly the way that I wanted it to, but this turned out, like, exactly how I wanted it to. I wanted it to go from this dark purple, which would be next to my face because I think the purple looks better next to my face than olive. And then it just kind of fades down through the blue and into olive. And then I wanted it to have this sort of pale, sort of fade out into this more neutral kind of color. So in any case, I love it. Yes. So you can see there's all my 2x2 ribbing that was worked on the machine. And the whole sweater is BFL and Silk DK with one strand of Silk Mist. So it's really soft and fluffy and fuzzy and wonderful. So as soon as I can get more yarn for the body, I will be ready to finish the sweater. Okay. So what else do we have going on right now? I will share with you. This week, we had a new episode of the podcast come out, and this is the episode where I chatted with Amy from Knitty.com. If you know Knitty, Knitty has been around for more than 20 years. It started in 2002, and it has been and continues to be like a source of free knitting patterns on the internet. It's absolutely incredible. If you have not yet discovered Knitty, I highly encourage you to check it out. Amy continues to put out issues and work with designers. She has created sort of careers for designers through her work. So yeah, I invite you to take a look at her sort of episode that we recorded with Amy. And then we have some other episodes that I wanted to share as well. So on our podcast, we have so far talked to Loose Ends, which is a group that helps sort of finish the projects of people who have passed away. And so the projects that are left behind get finished by finishers and then given to the people, to the recipients that they were intended for. It's quite an amazing, amazing project. And then we also talked to Radical Weavers in Scotland, talked to Amy Scher and Andrea Louis about ergonomics. And Andrea Scher is a designer, and Andrea Louis is a physiotherapist or physical therapist. And we also have an episode with Celeste Angelo from The Cranky Spinner that is going to be up soon. That's coming out on May 28th. And so you can see that is a photo. You can't see that. This is a photo here of the I-cord tool that Celeste created. And it's amazing. It's just basically, it's 3 machine knitting needles, and then she has a lathe and she creates all of these tools for knitters to use. And so we talk a lot about that. We talk about circular sock knitting machines, and because she restores them, she restores antique machines. And then you can see here there's a photo of some of the projects from Knitty. This is a recent event that happened. It's a clapotis. This shawl is called the clapotis, and it was one of the first patterns that came out in Knitty like many, many years ago. And it's always been a pattern that's used hand dyed yarn very, very well, or variegated yarn very well. It shows off yarn really, really beautifully. And so this is a collection of new clapotis that have been knitted from that Knitty.com pattern. I also will be interviewing Lisa Graves from Weft magazine, you know, the new weaving magazine that was just founded by Lisa and JC. And this is also Amber and Vic from Gala Fola Acres. Now, this is a brand new mill and farm that is starting up in Maine. And their story is so, so incredible. But they have basically taken on all of the spinning equipment from Jagerspun Mill, and they're setting up a brand new spinning mill. And so the mission that they are on and the kind of work that they want to do in the community is absolutely incredible. I'm very, very excited to share their story with you soon. And yeah, you can find our podcast at all of these places. So lots of good things going on, hopefully. Now, one of the things that we always do at this live stream is we always share the colorway that we create for the secret stash. Now, um, because we were away last week and we were late doing the live stream by a week, I did like a pre-recorded version of this colorway sort of color reveal. And so that came out last week, but I didn't get a chance to show you the things that were made with that yarn. And so here I have a skein of that breathing underwater yarn. The colorway never looks as nice on screen as it does in the photos, and that's because the lighting in here is all weird. But yeah, this is a beautiful skein. It is flaxen silk fine, so it's a linen and silk blend. We love this yarn for summer projects and things like that. Summer shawl, summer lace, all of those kinds of things. Here, this is the t-shirt that that was made by Charlotte for this project. So this is the flaxen silk fine. It's actually just two skeins, makes an entire t-shirt because there's quite a lot of yardage in this skein. It's a 480 yards per skein. So it's actually quite a lot. But I show you the detail of the back. This is the upper back portion, has a bit of lace. And so this sweater is called Every Berry. It was designed by Tabitha Hedrick. And so that very, very cute little summer top that you can make. So that is lovely. So thank you to Charlotte for knitting that. And there are really, really great pictures of all of that on our website for you guys to check out. Now, I also wanted to share, because Bridget reminded me to share these, that our secret stash, we usually dye extras and then have extras available for people if they wanted to pick up extras. So if you got like a single skein of for club and then you realize, oh, actually you want multiple skeins in order to make a bigger project or a bigger shawl or like make a summer tea that uses two skeins, then we always sort of have extras available for that. Now, we don't keep all of those extras forever and ever. And so we have a couple of Secret Stash Club colorways that we are sort of coming to the end of. And so at the end of May, these three options will be not available anymore. So right here, this one on the right here, this is Riverfront. Riverfront comes in fiber and also a single sock blank. It's really, really lovely. This second one here, this is called Your Favorite Worst Nightmare. And this is in our trifecta blend. This is the new yarn blend that we created this past year. And then this last one here, this one is the Lizzie line colorway that we created for the Elizabeth line in London. And so that one, I believe, was on mohair silk sock. So those three are only going to be available until the end of May. And then there will be new things replacing all of those. Now, what else is new? What else is new? So the newest class that we have available in the School of SweetGeorgia, right now we have over 115 different classes in all of those topics: spinning and weaving and knitting and crochet and tapestry and punch needle and needle felting, and there's so many, but the main ones have been weaving and spinning and knitting here, and crochet. And so the spinning course that we have just come out with is by Kim McKenna, and she is teaching how to spin with bast fibers. So there is flax, hemp, rami, and Himalayan nettle. And she will go through the process of like blending them. So you can see these beautiful yarns are all blended from Corriedale wool with 20% of these bast fibers. And so she shows the process of blending them, how to spin them. And watching Kim spin is always incredible. And her yarns are so beautiful. Every time we like every time I look at Kim's yarns, I just feel like there's so much, um, uh, that I have so much to learn. I have so much to practice and I have so much to learn, but her yarns are absolutely gorgeous. And so she is wonderful to learn from. And so I encourage you guys to check out that class. If you are looking for a place to source some of this fiber, we did a pre-order for like a spinning bast fiber kit a couple of months ago in order to prepare for this class. But if you're not able to, if you did not get the pre-order, we're trying to do these pre-orders maybe once a year because we can't really stock all of this bast fiber all year round. So we're just kind of bringing it in as like one big batch, and then we would split it up. Um, and so, yes, if you're still looking for a place to find some of these fibers, just message us and we can let you know sort of where to go to get some of these individual fibers if you want to just try something out. So, yes. And yes, so some of these plant-based fibers need to be retted. And so we are bringing in the fiber in a way that is easy for you to use. So you're not having to do it from like a raw plant material. Yes. The other class that I encourage you guys to check out is the ice dyeing class. So this is the other second most recent class that we released with Katrina Stewart from Crafty Jacks. And this one I encourage you guys to do because when it comes out to summertime, this is a great way to just like dye a whole bunch of yarn or dye a whole bunch of fabric outside. There's no heat required, no nothing. It's really just, your tray, a bit of ice, and then your fiber, some of your dye chemicals, and then you are ready to go. So, really encouraging you guys to give this a try. There was a recent article I was saying in one of the handwoven magazines, where Natalie Drummond, who does a lot of deflected double weave sort of weaving, she does some ice dyeing with her warps. But before she dyes them, she basically winds her warps into small sort of sections, and then she wraps them with ECAT tape to bind or like resist some sections of the warp. And then she puts it into her tray, and then she does a much more sort of like intentional application of color for her ice dyeing, but creates these beautiful warps. And then she weaves them with her deflected double weave sort of technique, and it just looks absolutely amazing. So there are lots of different ways that you can use this technique. Okay, and the next thing that we wanted to do is we wanted to sort of let you know that machine knitting classes are going to be coming out in a few months. And so before that, if you would like to be ready for those machine knitting classes, we are doing a pre-order right now for that LK150 knitting machine. And so we're hoping to sort of put together a big batch and then order them all at the same time. They will be coming in the summer and then be ready and available for when the courses launch. So if you are interested or intrigued by the knitting machine, if you want to make some of the projects that we have coming, I do encourage you guys to come get one of those knitting machines. It's the same machine that I use for doing this sweater, doing the body of the sweater. Honestly, like this size machine, this gauge machine works perfectly for the knitting yarns that we use the most. Everything from DK, worsted, sport weight, all of that kind of stuff is perfect with this particular kind of machine. So, yeah, if you guys are interested, we have those pre-orders available. Now, Elena's asking what fibers do the fiber reactive dyes work with best? So, fiber reactive dyes work best with cellulose-based fiber. So that would be your cotton, that could be any of these plant-based fibers. But yes, cotton warps would be great. Fiber reactive dyes do work on silk, but I feel like because the fiber reactive dye process includes soda ash, it sometimes can damage the feel of the silk and make it a little bit crispy feeling or a little bit cottony feeling. So we typically encourage people to dye silk with acid dyes because it's much better for the silk fiber. Silk is like more like a proteinish kind of fiber. So yeah, that's what we suggest. Do you think you can maybe design a large cable knitted poncho pattern in the future? Absolutely. Absolutely. So I think that it would be very, very easy to work on a cable knitted poncho pattern for a machine. Because for the most part, working cables, and this is something that comes up in the class later on as well. Working cables is basically just moving stitches from a set of needles to another set of needles and kind of like swapping places, just like you would on knitting needles, but you do that on the machine. And so it's actually quite easy to do. So we can definitely work on something like that. The shawl here that Greta is wearing in the photo, this is a bias knit, machine knit shawl. And again, it's using the trifecta fine yarn that we've created. So it's a fingering weight, it's a BFL mohair and silk blend yarn, and then it's held together with a strand of silk mist, which is the silk and fuzzy mohair yarn. So the wrap is knit on the machine on a bias, so it's kind of works diagonally, but then it just has incredible drape and is absolutely gorgeous. Yes. So Elena's asking about the ice dyeing. Would not be, it would not work with your fleece or wool. It would be for a cellulose based fiber. So if you had maybe fiber, yeah, no, I wouldn't recommend it. I would recommend it just for cellulose based stuff. Yeah. Yep. Okay, so the next thing, so let's talk a little bit about all the make-alongs that we have coming up soon. And so the first thing that we have to work on is going to be Tour de Fleece. Tour de Fleece happens every year, once a year during the dates of Tour de France. And so this year it goes from July 5th until I think it was July 26th or July 27th, something like that. But last year, I spun a charolais fiber for the first time. I'd never spun it before, and I love that aspect of Tour de Fleece. I know that many people for Tour de Fleece for these different teams and challenges and things like that. A lot of it might be about how much yardage you might spin. It could become very competitive if you want it to be like that. But for us here at Sweet Georgia, we've always operated Tour de Fleece as sort of like an unofficial, very casual, kind of try and spin as much as you can sort of thing. But mostly it's about encouraging everybody to get into the habit of spinning a little bit every day. Get into the habit of spinning. And then this year for a challenge, spin something that is maybe new to you. So last year for me, spinning charolais was new to me because I typically spin BFL and silk, and that's basically all I want to spin. And so, like leaving your default and trying something a little bit different was already a bit of a challenge for me. And so this year, maybe the challenge is learning to spin with bast fiber or learning to spin with silk fiber if you haven't done that before, learning to make a blend. Maybe it is learning to make some rollags or mix some fibers together before you actually spin it. So there's lots of different things that you could do with a tour de fleece. You could also maybe make it a challenge to work through some of the course content that we have where, maybe this week you're spinning short draw and then next week you're spinning long draw and then next week you're spinning over the fold. And so it could be a way of challenging you to like improve your skills at all of the different things. Or maybe it's spindle spinning, or maybe it's learning to use an e-spinner. Lots of different ways that we can approach this. So Tour de Fleece is going to come up. We do have a colorway that we've designed, and it's going to come out very shortly. It's sitting right there, right next to my table, but I can't show you yet. And so, yeah, that's all coming very soon. And so we are hoping to, again, host that on the new community platform that we have coming. The next thing is that we were talking about oh, yes, and, Savage Walks was asking special tour events for Femme of Vex Swift would be really cool too. Yes, we do mention, the Tour de Femme as well, which continues on after the Tour de France, and, in the past, we have always sort of been kind of like we haven't finished all of our spinning, and so we just continue spinning into the Tour de Femme timeframe, and yes, we can definitely, continue on with that. Yes. The other thing that we want to do this summer is do a stranded sweater knit along. We've been talking a lot about, oh, we should do a knit along. We want to do a knit along. We want to do a knit along. And we want to do a knit along with some Canadian designers. And then we thought, hey, wait, we work with Canadian designers inside the school. And they also designed these beautiful patterns, so why don't we make them? So I think that it just made sense to feature these two particular patterns. One of them is we have seen, we showed this at the fashion show. This one is Andrea Rangel's Falling Leaves sweater. Absolutely gorgeous. Fits beautifully, so comfortable. And then this one is Caitlin Shepherd's sweater that is going to come out in a course very, very soon as well. And it's called the Oh Dearie Me sweater. And so they're two different constructions. So Caitlin's construction is top down. So you can design the yoke completely differently if you like, but it is knit and constructed from the top down, and then Andrea's pattern is knit from the bottom up. And again, it's also a design course. So you can swap out the yoke for whatever pattern you want. You can swap out the yarn for whatever you want. You can change the size however you want. But these two patterns sort of allow you to do stranded color work with two different sweater construction techniques. You can learn from either of these instructors. Yes, both sweaters. I love both sweaters. They both fit great. So excited to do that. And that will start August 1st. And so the whole goal is hopefully that we will be able to have sweaters to wear at Knit City, which happens in September. So it might take like a month and a half, 2 months to make the sweater. Or like me, it could take like almost a year to make a sweater. So that will happen on August 1st. The next thing I wanted to mention is that we do have June Knit in Public Day. It happens on June 14th. And so it just so happens that it coincides with a normal day where we open the studio for people to come on a Saturday. And so if you are in the Vancouver area, you are more than welcome to come. Our hope is that the weather will be nice enough that we'll be able to set up chairs and outside by the river, and then everybody will be able to sit and hang out by the river on that day, knit in public sort of day. Um, yes, happy for that. Yes, wonderful. So, yes, this is our last slide of the day. Basically, this is where you guys can find us. We are in Vancouver at our studio in South Vancouver. That's the address there. These are all the places that you can find us: SweetGeorgiaYarns.com, shop.sweetgeorgiayarns.com for all the yarn, the School of SweetGeorgia.com, and all my weaving stuff is at lowmeetsloom.com. And right now, the very best way to find anything out about what we are doing is to be on the newsletter. So that way you can make sure that you receive all of the information of everything that we have coming up. Um, yes, but I do want to sort of go back to, oh, yes. We'll remind you guys about the community sign up. So if you're interested in joining us in testing out the community, that URL is bit.ly/SGY community. And then you can sort of fill in your information and I will hopefully reach out to you very, very shortly. It'll be next week. And we're going to do some quick testing before we start to get ready for all of the Tour de Fleece activities. And yeah, we're very, very excited about this space because we're going to be hosting all of the events within that space. So rather than like going to a separate Zoom meeting or a Google Meet meeting, like everything is all enclosed within this one platform. So we're not having to go to a whole bunch of different places. So very, very excited about all of that. Thank you guys so much for being here today. I'm excited to catch up with you. I would love to hear from you, hear your thoughts. If you have any thoughts about community, you're more than welcome to also DM me. You can message me and you can email me. My email is felicia@sweetgeorgiayarns.com. And so you can message me about community stuff as well, because I do want to build for the future. I think that this is what it is. Building something, it's very ambitious, but I do want to build for the future with a really, really solid technology foundation. And so that is what this is all about. Thank you guys so much. I will see you guys next month. All right. Bye, everybody.